a service of CNC Worldwide.
CNC Podcasts are a service of CNC Worldwide and brought to you by the Greece Chamber of Commerce, providing more than 800 member companies with business solutions since 1984. 5 to 7 inches of rain fell over Yates County early Wednesday morning. It funneled down the hills and valleys of the Finger Lakes, downing trees, tearing out driveways and roads, and flooding homes. The village of Penn Yan lay in the path of that flash flood. A dozen people woke up to the sound of rushing water and breaking glass as water filled their homes. A building being renovated as a community center collapsed in downtown Penn Yan, and a creek washed away a parking lot full of cars and left sinkholes. One home reportedly collapsed. A dozen people were staying in a Red Cross shelter opened at the Penn Yan Academy last night. The village mayor says he cannot put a price tag on the damage yet, but officials say it will run into many millions. Governor Cuomo declared a state of emergency and deployed emergency response and recovery teams. Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy will visit Penn Yan on Thursday. Flooding did heavy damage to Camp Good Days and Special Times in Branchport. The camp for children with cancer suffered flooded cabins left full of mud from a nearby creek. Trees and fences were knocked flat and part of the beach was washed out. Damage is estimated at $40,000. A spokesman says the weekend's planned events have been canceled. Camp Good Days is looking for volunteer help to get up and running in 2 weeks in time for the next scheduled group of kids. Opening statements were heard Wednesday afternoon in the murder trial of Clayton Whittemore. The Oneida County man's accused of beating SUNY Brockport student Alexandra Kogut to death in September of 2012 after an argument in her dorm room. Monroe County District Attorney Sandra Dorley told jurors it was a brutal, senseless murder in which Kogut was beaten with a travel mug until it shattered, then a clothes iron. Defense attorney Mark Curley does not dispute that Whittemore killed his high school girlfriend. He asked the jury to focus on why Whittemore did it, saying he is the victim of severe emotional and physical abuse by his father. A Rochester woman convicted of threatening President Obama has been sentenced to just short of 3 years in prison by a federal judge. Christine Wright Darasaw was found guilty by a jury of making a direct threat to kill the president, then lying to Secret Service agents about it. Federal prosecutors say she called the White House on February 24, 2012, threatening violence against the president. Agents in Rochester linked her to the cell phone used to make the call. A Rochester man has been sentenced to the maximum 25 years to life in prison for murdering a woman in 2007. Darrell Boyd was convicted of beating and strangling Katerina Lawn in her apartment on Merchants Road. He then set fire to the apartment in an effort to cover his crime. Investigators eventually identified DNA beneath the victim's fingernails as Boyd's, and he was arrested a year ago. A 21-year-old Rochester man has been arrested for second-degree murder in the shooting death of community advocate Lawrence Richardson just over 2 years ago. Devontae Spencer is accused in a triple shooting near the corner of Dayton and Bauman Streets in April 2012. All 3 victims were walking down the street when Spencer allegedly walked up and began shooting at them. All 3 men were seriously injured, and Richardson died a short time later at Strong Memorial Hospital. Rochester police say a 15-year-old city boy has been arrested in connection with a playground assault at School 17 on Orchard Street. The assault was caught on cell phone video by someone at the playground who posted it on YouTube, which brought it to police attention. Police say the teenager's name and photo aren't being released because of his age. They say he is charged with third-degree assault, and he was on probation for an earlier crime. The Buffalo Bills filed a motion yesterday to dismiss the lawsuit filed by a group of former Buffalo Gills cheerleaders. In a statement, the team says it's moving to dismiss because the cheerleaders were only licensed by the team. They were employed by a third-party vendor, like the team's parking services and concessions. The Bills say that independent third-party promoter was the one responsible for choosing, training, scheduling, and compensating the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders sued, claiming they were underpaid and subject to demeaning treatment. One of the last pieces of the Eastman Kodak bankruptcy has been nailed down with the federal bankruptcy court judge's approval of an environmental cleanup agreement for Eastman Business Park and the Genesee River. The agreement was reached between Kodak, the Department of Environmental Conservation, and the federal EPA. It gets Kodak out from under future liability for any new chemical contamination found at the former Kodak Park manufacturing complex. Kodak pays $49 million into a trust fund to keep ongoing environmental cleanup work going. The DEC ponies up an additional $50 million if Kodak's money doesn't cover the remediation costs entirely. In return, the new owners and tenants of the repurposed Eastman Business Park won't be held liable for any pollution left by decades of film and chemical manufacturing. Your next CNC podcast is whenever you click on one of our pages and catch one. We post updates during the day. I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.